So today we're talking about Oppo. It's specifically Oppo's return into Europe when it comes to Find X series. Now recently they've released a bunch of other Renault-based phones or branded phones, but the Oppo Find X series, which is its flagship, such as this, the Find X8 Pro, is back in Europe, and that means great news for us consumers and tech enthusiasts, because it means you get more for your money, but more competition also. But this X8 Pro has a ton of really crazy, insane specifications, which we wanted to touch on. You get a Dimensity 9400 processor, a 6.78-inch AMOLED display at 190 Hz. You get 80 watt wired, 50 watt wireless charging, and on top of that all, you also get a massive battery. So it's obviously dominated by that huge camera array when it comes to the design, but there's a lot more going on here when it comes to the Oppo Find X8 Pro. The design profile of the Oppo X8 Pro has been accused of being rather simple and not in any way spectacular, but let's comment on that. Yes, it isn't exactly the most insane looking design profile, but what I would say, it is very solid and simple, and it doesn't need to be anything more than that, because what it does is more important than the way it looks. So on the front, you've got a nice and vibrant 1600 nit brightness AMOLED display at 120 Hz, which is nowhere near the peak brightness of other flagship phones, which is absolutely fine. Personally, I have had no issues at all when it comes to brightness of the display, and we'll show you some more tests in a second. Then let's quickly walk through the design profile. You've got your alert slider on the one side, USB-C on the bottom, and on the other side you've got your power and volume keys. Pretty standard fare. On the rear, of course, it's dominated by the housing of those quad 50 megapixel cameras, and then you've got your flash. So it is a pretty generic looking design, but what I would say, what's more important significantly, is the performance of the Find X8 Pro, and it is powered by probably the most powerful chipset you can get right now in the Dimensity 9400. Let's look at probably what would be the most best comparison you can get, well, that sounds like English or not, who knows, is against the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4 or Snapdragon Elite chips that were announced. In this little excerpt pulled from Nano Review, which we've sourced below, you can see the Dimensity 9400 pretty much keeps up, in fact beats some of the performance metrics against the Snapdragon 8 Gen 4. However, in real world terms, that doesn't really matter. We're going to show you some examples of what actually it means in real life in terms of using the actual Oppo Find X8 Pro in the day-to-day. And let's start talking about gaming. Gaming performance, much like in our review of the Vivo X200 Pro, was an incredible experience. Super smooth, no lag, graphically really good, really high frame rates. And what the Oppo Find X8 Pro does do, built into ColorOS as well, it will actually optimize the gaming performance out of box. You don't have to do anything. It will auto switch you into balance mode, and then it'll find the right levels in terms of performance to make sure you have the best possible gaming experience, which on its face of it is absolutely sick. And then if we move across to things like video performance, again, quality of the display is such that it will play back content in 4K resolution, 60 FPS on the YouTube app, and they'll play it back perfectly, no issues at all. And again, looks incredible on that display. And yes, it doesn't have that peak brightness of 1600 nits, but it is stunning looking. And then let's talk Wi-Fi performance. Run a quick Wi-Fi test here against a gig internet connection in the home. You're getting 500 plus meg. Here in the UK, sadly, we don't ever get the acclaimed speeds that we're supposed to get. It always tends to be a bit of a reduction, which is here nor there. That's an overview of the performance, but then there's other elements, and pretty much every flagship phone right now has all talked about one key thing, and that's AI. And ColorOS, Android 15, and AI power a lot of some really cool features on the Oppo Find X8 Pro. So as we mentioned, ColorOS on Android 15 and AI are the main highlights of the software experience when it comes to the Oppo Find X8 Pro. And there's so much AI here, I want to actually refer to a cheat sheet on the side here. So let's cap off some of these and give you some example of these as well. So you've got AI summary, which essentially, as it sounds, it will take a website and it will summarize it into a bullet point form or an article to make it easier for you to digest. Then you've got AI speak and AI writer. So speak, what that will do is pretty simple actually. In fact, I'll stay quiet for about 15 seconds. You can actually hear what this actually sounds like in the real world.
The iQOO 13 is one of the first Snapdragon 8 Elite-powered smartphones on the market, but that's not its biggest selling point. The handset is one of the most...
In terms of AI writer, again, this will write your messages and other components or construct an email, etc. for you if you wanted to. And then lastly, there is AI Studio. Now, couple things with this. It is generative, so you can create multiple different scenarios for you. So if you take a photo of, for example, here, I've got an image of my friend's kid playing in his home, and then we've generated 2 images after this. So one's a comic one, and one's sort of a, I guess, Pixar Disney style one, movie style one, I guess, and it will generate it. Now what it does, it generates it, but then it'll leave it running in the background, and then it'll prompt you when it goes live. The only downside to this is you have to actually check in daily, because technically speaking, if you don't, it's not free, it's credit based. So when you buy the phone, you get an X amount of credits to use. So that's a rough overview of the AI. So other things you've got AI and blur, AI eraser, AI clarity, ultra clarity, all of that is as you'd expect it to sound. And the AI functions, I would say predominantly, are quite useful. And to be fair, I think Oppo's done a pretty good job of bringing these to light in the best way. But then let's talk Color OS. It runs and operates super smoothly. No issues here in terms of navigating your menus or getting around the applications. Tons of customization options. And one thing I would say in terms of animations, transitioning from in and out of folders or closing an app and opening an app, it is so smooth. And we're using an S23 Ultra at the moment. It's our daily driver, and there's a significant difference in terms of the way it operates, moves. And I think a lot of that is powered by that Dimensity 9400 processor. Generally speaking though, the performance on the OS is excellent. It's fully optimized. There's a lot of attention to detail given here. And yes, it does borrow elements from other brands like Google, Samsung and Apple in terms of its OSs, but it does it and does it well. So copying isn't really an issue if they do it well. And lastly, a super cool feature is the ability to transfer data and media from your Oppo phone directly to your iPhone. Yes, it does require an additional app on the iPhone, but this does create a really good scenario where you can actually share data between family members or friends as long as they have that supporting app. But we've kind of avoided talking about the main highlight, and that is this, the 4 50 megapixel cameras on the rear of the Oppo Find X8 Pro. 4 50 megapixels, and we're going to focus on the rear of the cameras in this portion because that's going to be the main highlight. You've got 2 50 megapixel periscope lens. Effectively, they combine to create an image, and you'll see some examples in a second. You've got 50 megapixel ultra wide and a 50 megapixel main camera lens. And then let's talk performance. We'll start off with night mode. Essentially what you're getting here is an incredible performance, and I will say, having used the Vivo X200 Pro recently and its camera system and this camera system, I would say they're very close in the day-to-day scenarios. In the night though, I think there is a difference where you get lens flares on images and say a neon sort of effect or hue around an image or a text. It doesn't do what the Vivo did where it blurred it out a little bit. This actually copes with it much better. This does have some lens flare on photo and video, which you'll see in the shots for night mode, but overall the night mode performance is excellent. There is no night video mode. This is just video at night, but it looks pretty great. Day-to-day wise, this is absolutely stunning. So this is the vivid color profile, and the reason we chose this is because it's the most similar to the Samsungs that we're using on a daily basis. Now, generally speaking, the entire process of taking a photo, click and shoot, which we love, no amendments needed here. You just literally get your phone out, boop, boop, boop. And these photos were all taken with the new camera button on the side of the Oppo Find X8 Pro. So this isn't when we've used the software. These are all to try and get a gauge on what that button is and how it uses and functions to see would it work in day-to-day real life terms. I would say you'll probably find you're going to keep reminding yourself to use it more so than you are going to be naturally using it, which is fine. If we move on to video, No 8K here. This is all 4K 60 on the front and the rear. And again, the video quality is very, very good. The overall camera system on the Oppo Find X8 Pro actually is a significant upgrade to what we're using on the S24 Ultra. And I would say generally in terms of the color profiles we enjoy, the best camera system we have used so far in 2024. So where does that leave us? Let's wrap up this review with a few things we haven't really noted in great detail. Let's get to that next. So some of the things we haven't really talked about that have become commonplace when it comes to things like the Oppo phones and Vivo phones, etc., is charging speeds. 80 watt wired, 50 watt wireless. Insane. 5,910 milliamp hour battery, and this is actually an IP69 dust and water resistant phone. Also, when it comes to battery, it's new battery tech. It's actually silicon carbide. I think I've pronounced that correctly. If I haven't, let me know in the comment section. So this is a new battery tech as well. So essentially this will retain its battery longer, it'll perform better, and the entire phone does incredible work when it comes to heat management as well. I would say it does not get hot at all. You'll only find it getting warm when you're wirelessly charging. So what's our final thoughts? We've focused so much on how good things are. The one thing we haven't told you is price. In the UK, this right now, as of recording of this video, is £1,049. For that, you get the 12 gig 512 storage Oppo Find X8 Pro. You can also claim a Oppo Watch X for free, an 80 watt plug, and a pair of their Pro Enco earbuds, which is insane value for money at £1,049, especially when you compare it to, say, the equivalent iPhone with Samsung. They're closer to £1,400 to £1,500. So in that sense, value for money wise, performance wise, this is better, and value for money wise is better. But I would say it has to be able to gain market share. And our overall experience of the Oppo Find X8 Pro has been incredibly positive. There's very little here to not like. There's very little here to say it's failing. I guess the biggest issue I would have with the Oppo Find X8 Pro potentially would be in terms of support moving forward. So as they don't have any dedicated repair centers, etc., like Samsung and Apple do, if there was any support moving forward, and longevity wise, will they support the phone longevity wise? 5 years of software updates they've said, but in terms of repairs and out of warranty repairs, etc., what would that look like? And hopefully Oppo can stick around for a while. But overall though, our love for this phone is so strong. In fact, this Oppo Find X8 Pro will be our new daily driver. We're finally going to switch from the S23 Ultra to this, as we have liked it that much. Thank you so much for watching. Until the next one, as always, we out.